Today we are going to be talking about Howl and harmony. And it's a topic that's kind of near and dear to my heart. As I mentioned last week, if you were here, Howl and Harmony was a series of talks that I gave with Todd Fink, who was here last week, and he did a great job. Howl and Harmony was inspired by the Me Too movement. So some of the things that I'm going to say today, when we talk about navigating tough and tender topics, some of the things I'm going to say and share today are tough and tender. So I just want you to be aware of that. So we titled the series Howl in Harmony after a story that my daughter told me. And the story was, and I shared a little last week, was that before there were words and concepts and names and phrases, there was just sound, howling. The tribe people would howl. And whenever they were going to meet up with a new tribe, or if they crossed paths with a new tribe, they had a way of figuring out if the other tribe was friendly. And one tribe would howl, and the other tribe would howl in harmony if they were friendly. So when the Me Too movement began to grow, I wanted to have a conversation because I felt like I needed to howl. And I didn't want to have a conversation the way that I had seen conversations held in the past, where it was just like a bunch of women sitting around licking our wounds and lamenting our issues. I wanted men to be present in the conversation. I wanted to howl, and I needed to howl, and I needed to hear the howl in harmony that would tell me that you were listening and that you had heard. These accusations of sexual abuse that were coming up during that time, that continue to come up, that were nothing new to our society, they were so accepted. An acceptance of a perennial disease, or like the acceptance of flu season. You know, these stories or scenarios just came and went, like Chicago winters, you know, they could be counted on, like the flood season or the fire season in Los Angeles. They were just accepted. We just needed to bear down and to get through them. And after a while, they would fade into the backdrop of the current news and retreat back into the closet. But something made this moment different. And there was a clearing that was happening, an awakening, a sort of come to Jesus moment that we were all going through. And there at the time, and I think is still rippling and affecting the movement since then, is that there was no rock unturned. You know, we saw the abuse in all levels of power, from politics to producers in Hollywood to priests, Harvey Weinstein to Bill Hybel. You know, the most unlikely were susceptible to this disease. And they didn't start off their abuse the moment the lights went on. You know, they had been doing these things unchecked for a millennium. Because in the culture and the cultural code that we were living by said one girl's word against the whole world. It made it hard for women to speak up. But the thing that made this movement so different and so powerful was not the main song that came from one or two or three or a handful of women's words. The thing that changed everything was the echo, the harmony of other women. Other women who had suffered in silence and began to come forward and show up in solidarity, and just begin, not by going through all the details of their own horror story, but by simply posting #MeToo. The main story was, I was sexually assaulted. The harmony was Me Too. And the song was the song, but the harmony is what made it stronger, what made it more holy, what gave it staying power. In A Course in Miracles, lesson 151, the lesson's affirmation, it says, all things are echoes for the voice of God. That's what a good harmony can do. So being at harmony requires that we listen to what's being said or sung, that we don't confront it, that we just listen to it, that we listen so that we can hear. So we listen so that we can play our part. We listen so that we can consciously decide what to add to the message to affirm the song or the story without overshadowing the main story or song. So currently we see this happening with Black Lives Matter. Black and brown people have protested before. They've been here before. We've all been here before, tear gassed and imprisoned. You know, but right now there's a group that's saying, me too. If you get tear gassed, I get tear gassed. It's called the Wall of Moms. And these moms are showing up to the demonstrations in nonviolent, wearing yellow clothing and helmets and a word tagged to their shirts that say mom. And it feels like it's almost the answer to George Floyd's, to all of the calls, to all of the children who have been screaming out, mom. And that's why this time feels different, because of the harmony that's taking place. Agatha Christie has this amazing and powerful quote. She says, a mother's love for her child is like nothing else in the world. It knows no laws, no piety. It dares all things and crushes down remorselessly all that stands in its path. That's powerful. If we knew how powerful a mother's love was, if we really honored that power, the world would be in a different place. And these moms are showing up, demonstrating the power of that love. It's a fearless echo of the voice of God. So the art of harmony is that harmony is very abrasive to the ego, because the ego speaks first and loudest, and it doesn't wait for others to speak. And it lumps everyone else together as wrong, and it covers its ears and it covers its eyes so that it can hold on to its version of the story, and it seeks out people to support its version of the fractured story, because misery loves company. And the ego whispers to that the world is terrible, stupid, lying, hideous, horrible place to be, and to be afraid. So that's the song of the ego. And from this fear, we begin to make meaning, instead of me too, we begin to chant, not me, I'm not like that. I'm smarter than that. I'm wiser than that. I'm better than that. And so that everyone who wears a mask is a fool. And everyone who doesn't wear a mask is a fool. And everyone who voted for this president is a fool. And everyone who didn't vote for this president is a fool. And everyone who believes that all lives matter is a fool. And everyone that believes that Black lives matter is a fool. And thus we live in a world filled with fools. We cut each other off. We burn bridges. We take things seriously. We defend to attack. And then we attack to defend. And we find ourselves alone and exhausted, when all along we could be making music together. We could really be having a really gentle and sweet experience. Somehow along the way, we've decided that we're not worthy of this very gentle, patient, sweet experience. So this past week, I did get to talk to people who wear masks and people who don't wear masks. And I got to see a lot of shame and a lot of pain and a lot of fear. And here's the funny thing. This is really the funny thing, to me at least. The non-mask wearing people who study A Course in Miracles will say, the mask is a symbol of fear. And the mask wearing students of A Course in Miracles will say, the mask is a symbol of love. So they're both saying the opposite thing, but the mask is the mask is the mask. The mask is neutral. And I can't say who's right or who's wrong, but I know who's winning. The freaking ego is winning, allowing the judgment, the discord, the shame, the blame to be what we offer to our brother. Here we are in this mild mini civil war. And if you're awake at all, you realize it, you feel it, there's tension. If we don't figure out how to have a conversation, you can bet your ass that we'll have a crucifixion. If we can't figure out how to have a conversation, you can bet your ass that we will have carnage. And we'll look back on our own legacy and we'll say, I wish I hadn't allowed it to get that far. And when I think that everything is a direct attack on me, I need to defend myself. And that's a very vulnerable and weak place to be. So let's look at it under the lens of A Course in Miracles. And A Course in Miracles says, how can I say that you're wrong if I don't know what anything is for? So how can I say that anyone is wrong if I don't know what anything is for? This is a statement of freedom. It's basically saying you can't play tug of war if you don't pick up the rope. But if you do pick up the rope, it will turn into a noose and you will hang your brother and then you'll hang yourself. So the idea is to step aside from the war by saying, I don't know what anything is for. And there's no condition to that. It's saying anything is for. I don't know what anything is for leads me a little bit more gently and swiftly to the possibility that, hey, my friend, you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Maybe I have something to learn. But more than you being right, I get to be in my right-mindedness, where making you wrong is no longer the top thing on my priority list. And into that peace, I get to melt into the warm embrace of God, and my hands go up and my guard goes down. And it's freeing. And I surrender into the wonderment and the curiosity that is beyond beautiful. And I become like an innocent child, just playing in harmony with love, and it all becomes kind of funny, because it is funny. If I really look at it through the eyes of a child, I say, geez, I fear disease, or I fear lack of freedom. I fear disease, so I wear a mask, or I fear lack of freedom, so I don't wear a mask. So I make my brother wrong in doing either one, and then I ensure that I am both diseased and in prison. What? Wait, that is a game that makes me lose whatever I do. The trick is on me. So the real trick to winning this game is to not make my brother wrong. To not make my brother wrong. To not make my brother wrong. But my brother's really wrong a lot of the time. Don't you think I should point it out to him? Don't you think that would be helpful? Back in the day, I was raped. And I'm not alone in this experience. I'm sure you could, pick any square in the community right now and somebody would have another story. And when I was raped, I felt all the things that a person who is trespassed against that way feels. And I carried that fracture on me like a tattoo on my soul. And when I grew up, I became a spiritual practitioner, and we were asked to look at our sexual history, and that experience came up. And I never imagined that I would heal from it. I just thought it would be something that would haunt me and plague me all the days of my life. But I was willing to see it differently. And so I went to a practitioner, and she told me that there was a place within me that was never touched by this event. What? Where was that place? And then she took me into a meditation, and she walked me through the mathematics of God. And she took me to this place of innocence and purity. And it was so deep and so tranquil and so pure. And this place was me. It was me. It was the truest thing about me. And I walked from that room completely free of blame, of shame, of vitriol, of vengeance, of all of it. And from that moment, I could walk the world, and the world had no power to make me anything. And before that, I would say, they made me feel like this, or she made me feel like that, or this made me feel like this. And after that, I recognized this is all a choice. And I'm the one who gets to decide. And I do decide that I was created by God. And what happens in the world could not touch this. It could not touch this. It would pass over it like a fog. The boy stole something from me that did not belong to him. But instead of shaming him, I could ask, me too? Have I ever stolen anything? Have I ever stolen anything that did not belong to me? And why did I do that? If I did that, why did I do that? I thought it was the only way that I could get what I wanted or what I needed. Can I forgive this? Knowing that this cannot leave a mark on me unless I say it leaves a mark on me, and I say that it doesn't. Can I forgive this? If I can see things from a bigger perspective, then I can forgive this. Now, I'm not suggesting that we have a spiritual bypass here, because this is an individual walk. I'm just explaining the possibility and the potential that you live in. Okay, I'm just letting you know there's many doors in the hallway, even though the ego will only let you see one. But if you're in the dark around your resistance and your resentment and your blame and your shame, you got to feel your way in the dark hallway and look for those other doors, because they're there. And I get to look at it myself with my own spiritual inner teacher, so that I can have a sincere evaluation with spirit. And if I can see things from a much bigger place, then I'm now capable of getting over the fence. And I will have a much, much, much better shot once I'm over the fence to help you get over the fence. And I'm not here to be harmful. I'm here to be in harmony. And I'm here only to be truly helpful. If you're new to A Course in Miracles, that's what it says. It says that we're here only to be truly helpful. And although that sounds like such a mundane goal, it's everything. It's literally everything. It gives you your purpose. It gives you your prosperity. It gives you your peace. It gives you everything when you're here only to be truly helpful. And it takes nothing. So I'm not here to help the special people that I like, the ones that get me, the ones that think that I'm cool. I'm here to help the ones that rub the patina of my ego from me, the ones that I do not want to help. Everything in the end is love. We know this, but do we embody it? And everything is for me. We know this, but do we embody it? Everything is love and everything is for me. So how did you get raped? Even this rape, is this for you? Well, in A Course, it says love makes no exceptions. Love makes no exceptions. But each of us get to answer that question on our own. As I said, as I started, we don't have all the answers, but we entertain the questions. We say that and we mean it. However, one person does get to answer that question. Was this for me? One person gets to answer that. And that one person is me. And I answer this question as yes. And I don't answer it for you. I only answer it for me. Did I need to be raped? Did Jesus need to be crucified? Look, the world is a fucked up, fickle place. That's true. That's just the way it is. And if you haven't already figured this out for yourself, this is a fickle world, and we're going to walk on the sands of time, and things are going to shift and change and shift and change. And we're going to get our own classroom. Shit is going to go down, but we are not subject to the ways of the world. I'm not subject to the ways of the world. And from that freedom, I got to forgiveness. And that forgiveness was so immense because it included me, that it was able to take all of those teardrops and swallow them whole and transform them into holy water that could nurture my actual freaking life. On the other side of this forgiveness existed my life that was so good and so beautiful and so holy. And I prevented that from being my reality for as long as I wanted to hold this classroom off. Did you know that you had that much alchemy in your bones? I know I asked that before, but I want to ask it again and again and again. Do you know how powerful you are? And you might say, how is that even possible? When I see that everything is love, my goal becomes unified. My only goal is peace. My goal is not to be in discord with you. My goal is to be in love with you. And I am in love with you. No matter what you do or don't do, I'm in love with you. No matter what you wear or don't wear, I'm in love with you. No matter who you vote for or didn't vote for, no matter how colorblind you are, or no matter what your actions, I will not let my fear cause me to hate you. And in that one decision, I stand on my own solid ground and holy ground, and all of my efforts are channeled in love, so that when you howl, I howl in harmony. And it costs me nothing to do that. But what about when someone is actively trying to hurt us? A Course in Miracles tells us, and again, you can just accept this to the degree that you want to, but A Course in Miracles tells us that nothing real can be threatened. And if you believe that you can be threatened, you have forgotten yourself. Only your own thoughts can harm you. If you want to hold on to your ego, this idea that only your thoughts can harm you will rattle your cage to no end. What do you mean only my thoughts can harm me? Like that guy, this one, that one. Everybody's harming me. It's only my own thoughts. That will rattle your cage. If you're ready to let go of your ego, this thought, only your own thoughts can harm you, will set you free. And there's no exception to this. We are either 100% responsible for our own peace, power, and potential, or we have given our power away. No one can make us hate them. And there is never, ever a good reason to hate anyone. A Course in Miracles says, I've given everything all of the meaning that it has for me. But I don't understand anything. We've already established that. So how am I supposed to trust myself with making meaning of things? I can only make meaning from what I already know from my very limited past. And if I'm going to go on my very limited past, I'm not going to be very successful in making meaning of things compared to the limitless ocean of inspiration and wisdom available to me when I tap into God. And I will tap into God if I just get present, but I don't like being present, because when I'm present, I literally lose myself, and I am very addicted to me. We all have a subtle addiction to ourselves. We're afraid of losing ourselves. We'll go there when we're painting or when we're acting or when we're doing music, but otherwise we want to be included in everything and have our opinions and judgments stamped on everything, so that it can keep us from the intimacy of the moment. So instead of being present, I begin to make up the world, and I make up a very meaningless world. And the funny thing about the meaningless world that I make is that it upsets me. It upsets me, and I made it. It doesn't make any sense. And I'm not alone in experiencing this upset. This upset taints the whole freaking soup, and I draw to me other people who are also upset so I can make this seem normal, or people who are experts at upsetting me. Why? Why do I do that to myself? So today's lesson is so very powerful. If you're studying along with us on Miracles Live 365, the lesson is lesson 26, and it says, my attack thoughts are attacking my invulnerability. I think I'm sending my attack thoughts out to you, and you, but they're coming back like 1,000 slinged of arrows, and they're hitting me right in my soft spot, and I'm harming myself with my own attack thoughts. Lesson 158, says, I will learn to give as I receive. So that's what's happening. What I give out returns to me. But I can decide what I'm sending out, because I've been given the grace of God. That's what I want to extend. 185 says, I want the peace of God. And I really, really do. I want the peace of God. The peace of God is everything. 193 says, all things are lessons that God will have me learn. So it's not going to say like, this is going to be like a trip through the daisies. Like, you're going to have lessons, my friend. You're going to get to learn what it really means to love unconditionally. And that's what you came for. Don't forget what you came for. You didn't come here to influence people and win friends and win the lottery. You came here to expand your consciousness for love. And 294 says, my body is a wholly neutral thing. Everything is a wholly neutral thing. It only carries the meaning that I've given it to it. So I don't want to give meaning to anything anymore. I want to relinquish this meaning maker to the vision of Christ consciousness. So 349 says, today I let Christ vision look upon all things for me. So I let this Christ consciousness look upon all things for me and judge them not. What? Seriously? That's going to keep me safe? If I turn all my will over to a higher power so that it judges for me? Because I know, forget your troubles, come on, get happy, take all your tears away, sing hallelujah, come on, get happy, get ready for the judgment day. I know that God judges. The ego has told me that God judges. So I got to trust God with judging all those horrible people. Well, here's the deal. This is the worst part of this whole equation. God judges everything as good and beautiful and holy. So God's not going to do a good job judging my enemies. I got to get in there and judge for God. Or I could surrender that. Because if I believe in a God that judges in a negative way, I'm susceptible to that agreement. And I will be judged in a negative way by myself, not by God. But I will give bad PR to God and assume that God is against me and not for me. So today I let Christ's vision look upon all things for me and judge them not, but give each one a miracle of love instead. That's a pretty big hurdle to jump over, but I'm going to give you a little something that'll put some pep in your step. Here's the deal. Most of us are much better at howling than we are at harmony. We become very addicted to our own stories, so we get into discord with each other. It's a great distraction from our relationship with God. I can shoot you down and shoot you down and shoot you down to keep me from my own holy communion. So we want to look at what we're giving up in order to maintain the space of separation, because God is literally our breath that animates all things and lifts us to illumination of our own brilliance. And it's pretty startling how brilliant it is. When I was an actor, they would give me a script. I would read the script. I would think about the nuances. I would think about my relationship with the other actors. I would think about the overall picture. I would learn all the lines and all the words. And then I would get on stage, and by the grace of God, I somehow figured that I needed to get out of the way and let the breath of inspiration move through me. And when I was smart enough to do that, people would come up to me afterwards and they'd say, "Oh my God, that was so good. It was so natural." And I would, I would take the credit for it, but it wasn't really me. It was God. That was God breathing, living, playing in me. Like God lives and breathes and plays in you when you are out of your own way. And the actor got the acknowledgement, and God really got nothing, because I never said, "Oh, it was God." But the great news is God doesn't care if you take the acknowledgement. God doesn't care if you take the credit. When you teach your daughter something and she does it well, you don't stand by her and say, "Yeah, I taught her that. She'd be nothing without me." And God's the same way. God is generous. God wants you to look good. God wants to make you look beautiful. And when you do not allow your brother to stand in the way of your love, you will hear God howling, and your heart will bust open, and you'll find yourself howling back in harmony. And you'll be willing to give up hearing the song of the ego, which is saying, you're not enough and this is not enough. So the questions are like, will you be willing to give up hearing this song of God so that you can continue to slash and slay your brother? Is that worth it to you? Will you be willing to give up this song of your own divinity to hold on to your need to be right? Is it worth it to you? Would you be willing to crack the ceiling and collaborate with the divine within you? Because that's what's waiting on the other side of this vengeance and vitriol. Would you be willing to let go of the blocks that keep you playing small? And would you be able to truly, truly sing in harmony with God so that we will be listening to the song of God? And God's song is always the same. It's always been the same. It's never changing. It always says the same thing over and over in this beautiful echo. It says, "I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you." Every single last one of you, I love you. You're perfect, you're good, you're beautiful, you're holy, you're innocent, you're divine. And our only response to that, when God says, "I love every single one of you equally and forever," our only response is, "Me too." And that's the word.